Hello everyone and welcome to SplitSecond. This week we are joined by another one of our patrons, Maraxis. He's a nice guy from our capital that plays some different cEDH decks, so he came along for the match. Baal wanted to try out BadDog's bad Kaalia. David is on his old favorite Tasigur Golden Control, Cinestra's list. Maraxis brought his own personal Ikra Kraum farm build, and Leite also brought one of his old favorites, Anje Falcon Wrath combo. David won the die roll, and he kept a strong 7 with 2 lands, Bayou an Overgrown Tomb. Noxus Revival is good recursion but also good interaction, especially versus World Gorgel loops. Dark Ritual is great alongside a juicy Ad Nauseam. Abrupt Decay is also another good piece of interaction, and Teferi, Master of Time, is a card selection as well as a graveyard filler for Tasigur. Maraxis mulliganed once and kept an interesting hand as well, 2 lands in Breeding Pool and Command Tower. Noxus Revival as well for some interaction or recursion. Muddle the Mixture can be used as interaction or tutor for Passe or Breach. Remora and Rhystic Study for some good card draw, and Peer into the Abyss as a good finisher. Leite kept a fair turn 2 Anje with 3 lands, Command Beacon, Exotic Orchard and a finisher in Sunscorched Desert. Blood Pet and Simian Spirit Guide will speed up that Anje cast, while Psychotic Episode and Incorrigible Youths are Anje's fodder. Lastly, Baal kept an explosive hand as well, with an Ancient Tomb and a Polluted Delta for lands. Mox Diamond and Orge of Signet are his ramp. Vampiric Tutor can add him anything, while Jeska's Will can bring some good potential with or without Kaalia. Mayhem Devil is one of the finishers as well as a good board controlling card. Excited enough? David opens things up with a Shy Bayou and passes. Maraxis, on the other hand, plans to slow things down with a Command Tower followed by a Mystic Remora. Leite is okay with that, as he plays a Prismatic Vista, cracks it for his Swamp and casts Blood Pet. Baal complains about the Remora, as he plays an Ancient Tomb and is forced to pass. David goes to his turn and shocks himself with an Overgrown Tomb, and casts a Deathrite Shaman, preparing his turn 3 Ad Nauseam eventually. Maraxis does pay for the Remora to stick around, he also shocks himself with a Breeding Pool and passes too late. In his turn, he plays a Command Tower and does what Anje players do, casts her turn 2 by sacrificing the Blood Pet. Baal wanted to empty his hand, but Remora is making him go slow, so he plays his Crabland and passes. David finally gets a blue source online, with a Command Tower, and a Deathrite can eat up that Vista in Leite's graveyard, so he passes fully untapped. Maraxis pays for the Remora yet again, but fails to draw a land, so it will be its last turn around. In his hand step, Leite slowly activates Anje, fearing some Hull Breachers lurking around David's side. He's free to go, so he does this 4 more times, discarding Madness cards and a Command Beacon at last. On his turn, he plays Sunscorched Deserts, which is one of the outlets, and pings Maraxis, noticing both him and Tasigur would be on nows. He then activates Anje, discarding Incorrigible Youths, and actually casts him, to pressure those life totals. He attacks Maraxis and passes. Baal plays a Bloodstained Mire and cracks it for a Badlands. He then casts a Mox Diamond, triggering Remora, and after some pondering, doesn't pay. He discards a Polluted Delta to it and then follows it with a Mayhem Devil. On his end step, David exiles Psychotic Episode with Deathrite to deal 2 damage to each opponent. David patiently goes to his turn, waiting on that Remora to leave the field. He does a draw go and Maraxis finally can pay for the Remora. He does draw a land, a Wooded Foothills. He cracks it, triggering the Mayhem Devil, which Baal points at David considering Ad Naus and being 1 mana closer than Maraxis. No flashy opposition agent, so Maraxis gets a Badlands. He goes to end step and later discards Call to the Netherworld with Anje, which he casts with Madness, returning Blood Pet to his hand. He asks permission to draw, eyeballing mana for potential Hull Breachers. Good to go, activates her again, this time discarding a Simian Spirit Guide, and stopping there. Maraxis then discards 2 hand size, notably a Peer into the Abyss, which was miles away from being able to cast. Leite plays a Luxury Suite and swings the 4-3 at David before passing. Baal starts his turn with an Imperial Seal for a Mana Creep to the top. He then casts Jeska's Will, choosing the second mode, hoping to ramp up a bit. However, Maraxis has ramping plans of his own, as he casts a Mana Drain. With this twist of events, Baal swings at David with the Mayhem Devil as he seems closer to Naus and passes. On his end step, however, David sees an opening and casts Dark Ritual. Both Maraxis and Leite pass, so Baal fires up a Silence, hoping to time walk those Ad Naus plans. David doesn't have a 1 CMC counterspell, so he responds with an Abrupt Decay on Anje to try to optimize his mana resources. Leite responds by activating her and discarding Blood Pet. He does have a Deflecting Swat but decides not to fire it. so the stack clears, and David uses Deathrite to exile Maraxis' mana drain, pinging the table again. David fails to draw land, so he does a draw go, passing the ball to Maraxis, who gets to draw yet another land, an Underground Sea. He then casts Ikra with the help of Mana Drain's mana, so he can stop being hit by the Maddening Vampire. He then gambles for Demonic Consultation, hoping to transmute Muddle for the Oracle soon enough. Unfortunately, he doesn't tome that consultation, so he passes. Leite plays a Verdant Catacombs and swings the Youths at David, who everyone knows now is planning on that now soon enough. On his second main, he cracks the Fetch and Baal pings David again with the Devil. He gets a Badlands and recasts Anje, which resolves. He then casts Chrome Mox, imprinting Sire of Insanity, and passes. Baal draws and plays the Mana Crypt, followed by an Orge of Signet, and after that he casts Kaalia, holding onto a tutor for some demon or a peer into the abyss as well. He then swings the Devil towards David and passes. On his end step, David exiles a creature with Deathrite to gain 2 life for that Naus, and then casts a Noxious Revival on that Dark Ritual, not gambling on the top deck. On his turn, he goes for the main phase Dark Ritual into Ad Nauseam, hoping to win and stop being the punch bag. He digs deep for some fast mana, as he has Thassa's Oracle in hand already, but fails to get just enough for the Tutor, Consultation or Pact either, so he turns into survival mode so he can win next turn. He plays an Exotic Orchard, followed by the Lotus Petal, and then a Jeweled Lotus. He then casts Chrome Mox, imprinting Dark Confidant. He cracks the Jeweled Lotus, taking 1 from the Devil, and then delves enough to cast Tasigur. He even dumps a Birds of Paradise to chump any incoming demon from Baal. He discards to hand size, notably some counterspells. Maraxis shocks himself with a Watery Grave and transmutes Muddle the Mixture for a Dockside Extortionist, which he casts. In response, however, David casts Assassin's Trophy on the Devil, as the treasures alone could be painful enough for David. Baal gets a Swamp and the Pirate resolves. After some discussion on dealing with David, Maraxis plays Kraum and swings with both commanders at David, who chumps Kraum with the bird. Maraxis gains 7 from Ikra and passes. In his end step, Leite activates Anje, discarding Scheming Symmetry and drawing a card. He then starts his turn with a Snow Mountain into a Mausoleum Secrets with 2 creatures in his graveyard. He gets an Entomb and casts it, triggering Kraum. Maraxis then responds with a Mental Misstep, to which Leite activates Anje, discarding a Dark Withering and then a Bloodstained Mire, drawing 2. He then responds with a Pyroblast in the Misstep. However, Maraxis still has an answer. He cracks his last treasure for a Veil of Summer. Now, having gone so deep with his protection, Leite feels he's incapable of winning through David's own interaction, so he decides to simply set his board for the next turn and casts Deflecting Sword on the Misstep, redirecting it to the Veil of Summer. He won the battle, but did not win the war, so going for World Gorger is suicidal now, since David still has a Nature's Claim in hand, so he simply entombs a Vilis. He then casts Animate Dead, hoping to get that Vilis and being able to kill Tasigur with it and the Vampire. However, to everyone's oblivion, David responds with a Fierce Guardianship, and the Nature's Claim seems again another source of life to David. Leite then swings Youths at Baal and passes. On his end step, Baal casts his last card in hand, a Vampiric Tutor. He's the last person to try to kill David, and the big demon could do it, but he'd rather go for the main plan all along, getting a peer into the abyss. The Crypt spares him no life, and he draws and casts the peer into the abyss for a whopping 42 cards. He's unsure if he can win right through, but he hopes he can at least draw a big demon and swing at David. He plays a Command Tower and follows it with a Mox Opal, triggering Kraum. He follows it with a Chrome Mox, imprinting a Wheel of Misfortune. He then casts a Lotus Petal and then a Rite of Flame, followed by a Sol Ring and then a Mana Vault, floating enough for a Grim Monolith, and then a Rakdos Signet. He then casts Cabal Ritual with Threshold, follows it with a Demonic Tutor for an Underworld Breach, and casts it in hopes to pull up that silence, just in case. In response, David does fire his Nature's Claim on the Breach, to which Baal responds by escaping Cabal Ritual for 3 more mana. He does represent 5, as he forgets he just lost Threshold, but it won't change the outcome of the game. He then casts Praetor's Grasp, and figuring Maraxis did gamble for the consultation, he should have Thassa's Oracle in hand, so he goes for David, which also had it in hand, so he won't be able to win with it alongside his Tainted Pact. He then goes for Plan B, exiling David's Yawgmoth's Will. He cracks Lotus Petal and casts the Yawg Will. He then recasts Cabal Ritual with Threshold again and exiles it due to Yawg Will effect. Recasts Lotus Petal from the graveyard and then Rite of Flame for another 2 red. He follows it with a Demonic Tutor for a Twin Flame. He then casts Dockside Extortionist for 2 treasures. He follows it with Twin Flame targeting the dark side, and ults priority with a dual caster mage. On its ETB, he targets Twin Flame, which is copied, and targets dual caster mage for another one. This way, he is able to generate infinite dual caster mages with haste and swings for lethal. Good game! Thank you for joining us for today's match, everyone. Kaalia is not so bad after all. We'd like to start the credits by thanking our current patrons, and especially Izanagi, Stefan, TJ Rapp, Mike Purr, Jimo, Heated Shield, Drunken Housecat, V, RJ, and Starfall, our stack breakers. If you want to support us, you can do so by liking this video, subscribing, or by becoming a patron yourself. If you want to go through other Commander adventures, click one of the videos on the right. If you want to talk with us about our games or other EDH related matters, join us on Discord. Join us again next week for a new set of Commanders and more decisive plays. See you all then!